It's always a good sign that you know what you're doing if you can look at someone else's work and pick out their mistake. So if you know that they don't have the right answer, but you can step through their work in your head, comparing it to what they have on paper, and find their mistake, that's a good sign you have a good idea of the fundamentals of algebra and know what you're doing. So that's what we're going to do here. Is the job is to solve this inequality. We're going to solve this by first using the distributive property. So 1/2 times y, it's 1/2 y, and 1/2 times -16, that is -8. So that's what they have there. 1/2 y minus 8 is greater than or equal to y plus 2. So far, so good. But the thing to keep in mind is their work may not match exactly how you would do it. So you have to keep all of the options open. For example, this next step would be you could do any of four things. You could subtract 1/2 y, you could add 8, you could subtract y, or you could subtract 2. So any of those four things could be done in this next step. And a lot of people will usually combine a couple things at once. So looking at what this person has, it looks like they subtracted 2 and got -10, but also in the same step they subtracted 1/2 y. And keep in mind that's 1y minus that 1/2 y, that is still 1/2 y. So that's still good. -10 is greater than or equal to 1/2 y. The next step would be to divide each side by 1/2. Now remember, when you divide by 1/2, it's the same as multiplying by 2. So we would be dividing each side by 1/2, the same as multiplying by 2. Well, if you took -10 by 2, that is -20. If you take 1/2 y times 2, that is y. No mistake there. But the problem is the sign switched from greater than or equal to now less than or equal to. They should not have switched the sign. Remember, you only change or flip the inequality sign when you are multiplying or dividing by a negative. A negative sign was involved here, but you were dividing by a positive or multiplying by a positive because I said we were multiplying by 2. So either we're multiplying by 2 or dividing by 1/2. Either way, it's the same, but we don't change the inequality sign. So that is the mistake there, is that they changed the inequality sign when they should not have. The inequality sign should have stayed as it was, greater than or equal to. So the correct way would be, you could write it as -20 is greater than or equal to y, which is what it should be. Or you could flip that whole thing around and say that is y is less than or equal to -20. Just like when we take word problems and solve them by setting up equations, we're going to take this word problem and solve it by setting up an inequality. A digital music service offers 2 subscription plans. The first has a $9 membership fee and charges $1 per download. The second has a $25 membership fee and charges 50 cents per download. How many songs must you download for the second plan to cost less than the first? So we're not setting up an equation with an equal sign. We're setting up an inequality, and it's going to be a less than sign. How you should start this is to let x represent what you're solving for. How many songs must you download? That's your x for the second plan to cost less than the first. So x is the number of songs downloaded. Now the first service says the first has a $9 membership fee and a charge of $1 per download. So remember, x is the number of downloads. That would be 1 times x plus 9. It's $1 per download. That's this x plus that $9 membership fee. That's the first service's plan. The second service charges 50 cents per download and has a $25 membership fee. So 50 cents per download, 0.5 times x, just like the previous plan was $1 per download, or 1 times x. That's 0.5 times x, and a $25 membership fee would be plus 25. Now, the question is, how many songs must you download for the second plan to cost less than the first? So we're going to set that second plan up to be less than the first. 0.5x plus 25, that's the second plan. That is going to be less than the first, or less than x plus 9. If we were to solve this for x, remember you could do any of four things here. You could subtract 0.5x, you could subtract 25, you could subtract x, or you could subtract 9. You could do any of those four things to solve for x. I'm going to subtract x and subtract 25. You don't have to do it that way. Get negative 0.5x is less than negative 16. Now our next step is we are going to divide each side by negative 0.5. Remember, when you multiply or divide each side by a negative number, you want to change or flip or reverse the inequality sign. So if we divide each side by negative 0.5, that inequality sign gets reversed. Negative 16 divided by negative 0.5, that is 32. So that says that x is greater than 32. Now what does that mean? X is the number of songs downloaded. X needs to be greater than 32. So you must download over 32 songs for that second plan to cost less than the first. The lengths of the sides of a triangle are in the ratio of 5 to 6 to 7. Describe the length of the longest side if the perimeter is less than 54. Well, up there where it says the sides are in a ratio of 5 to 6 to 7, that's the key. That means among those sides there is a common factor. We don't know what that factor is yet, but we know there is a common factor because the sides are in a ratio of 5 to 6 to 7. Now, not knowing what that common factor is, we're going to let it be x. We're going to say that x is the common factor of those three sides. We know the perimeter is going to be less than 54. So if we know the common factor is x and the perimeter is less than 54, we can put those sides together to figure out that common factor and then figure out the length of the longest side. So if the common factor is x, the shortest side is going to be represented as 5x. The medium side or middle side is going to be 6x. And the longest side is 7x. And that's the one we're going to be going after. Now it tells you the perimeter is less than 54. Everybody knows perimeter of a triangle, you just add up all the sides. So we're going to add up those sides, 5x, 6x, and 7x, add those up. It needs to be less than 54, so set those three sides added together less than 54. If we solve that for x, we'll be able to get the common factor. Once we know the common factor, we'll be able to go back and describe the longest side. So 5x, 6x, and 7x, just combine the like terms there, it's 18x is less than 54. And of course you can guess that x is less than 3. Divide each side by 18, x is less than 3. So our common factor, x, is less than 3. So to describe the length of the longest side, we're going to take that x is less than 3, go back to this longest side, which is 7x. That's going to tell us that the length of the longest side is less than 21. We're simply taking 7 times 3. Longest side is 7x. That would be 7 times 3. That would be 21. So our longest side is less than 21.